professionals and experts to teach us a few things that we may not already know. That's what we're doing this Friday morning. We're bringing another expert who is going to enlighten us on certain things. And this morning I have with me Mr. Isa Ismail, who is a strategic communications consultant and media analyst. We're talking this morning about effective communication for mass reorientation. We cannot overemphasize the fact that Nigerians need a general reorientation. Yes, we have the National Reorientation Agency. People have said that agency has, been docile for quite a while. It's just there, there's a budget for the agency, and all the people just get salaries, and they're not really doing what they ought to do. We've had slogans and all this stuff over time, but did it really drive national reorientation? People wouldn't say so much about that. So we'll get to talk with the experts and find out why we haven't been able to deliver. I remember when the Good People, Great Nation was a slogan, and that kind of, made some level of impact. But now, change begins with me. They did a bit of it, but not as much as the Good People, Great Nation was almost on everybody's lips. And to a large extent, a lot of Nigerians began to feel proud about, being Nigerian. But then that collapsed, and where we are. We'll be talking now. Let's with my guest. By the way, you can join the conversation if you have thoughts or questions or comments to make. Feel free to join in and let's talk. Call me on 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Send me a message on 090-9705-4450. Mr. Ismail, good to have you this morning.
Thank you.
What are the plans for the weekend? It's a weekend. Do you have plans for the weekend?
Just to watch the political space.
Interesting.
Yeah, and see what happens to the ruling party as they converge to elect their presidential candidate for the 2023 election. So,
absolutely. The space is quite interesting now. I made you. You didn't make me. Everybody's firing up now, and it's the last minute. You can't blame them. It's 11th hour. Everybody needs to put their best foot forward at the moment. Now let's talk about national orientation. Yeah. Do we have, how you go to America and they say this is the American dream? Do we have such a thing as the Nigerian dream that every Nigerian aspires for and knows that, well, if I do this and this and this, this is the result, and I would get what I deserve and what I merit? Do we have any such thing as a Nigerian dream?
I wouldn't say we do not have, and I wouldn't say we do have right now.
Do we have a national aspiration?
I think we do have, but much of it is centered around government and not the people. It's driven more by government, and not the people, and that is where we get it wrong. So it's more of a top-bottom approach to national aspiration. So it's not a bottom-top approach to the national aspiration. So that's the challenge we have. And at this point, I like to say that one of the major challenges we have in terms of value orientation as a people in Nigeria is the relegation of civic education, right from the family up to the schools. We don't see civic education, especially in schools these days, as something that is not just complementary of the major, maybe the subject matters that we learn in school. So over time, we've relegated civic education, and that is the point where people actually have to develop some sense of aspiration as individuals and as members of a society or a country. So a situation where we are not well honed in terms of what we aspire to as citizens, what our responsibilities are, what our civic duties are, and what rights we have as citizens, and on what basis we should hold people accountable, those in authority, where we think they are deviating. So it just become a generally challenging situation where we as a people do not have that culture of having things to aspire to. The things that define us as a people are not the things that we think matter most to us. Yes, even in our schools, somebody is better maybe appreciated to have scored maybe 100% or A rounds in subject matters that we think will get us to the next level in our educational pursuit than people's character. And that's where the problem is. Most of the time when we are graduating from school, we have said to have been found worthy in learning and character. But I found that sometimes that character part is actually missing in most of us that went to school. Even though we went to school, we did very well in the subject areas, we get employment, and then we start working, and then the next aspiration is how to buy a car, how to get a house, how to maybe start a family if that's your objective, and then how to live big, impress your neighbor, and then that generally becomes what defines our value as a people, to the extent that today our value orientation has become very decadent, to the extent that most of the kids growing up now have formed the kind of personalities that they aspire to be based on what they see or hear around them. And in the days of social media, you can only imagine how much of our character has become so devalued because of the fact that the things that matter most to us are not necessarily the things that define the society, the things that define national aspiration, like you said, the things that maybe define our values, our character as a people. So we are maybe treated more on the basis of what we have in terms of wealth, in terms of display of affluence, and the ability to show off some of this ostentatious lifestyle. And that also defines the character of leadership that we have, where a leader is measured by maybe how many cars he or she has been able to buy for people, how many people he or she has been able to give money to. Even in electing our leaders, like you wanted to allude to in the course of our conversation off air, that people just look to money, even in electing leaders that are very critical to our well-being as a society. So because that has already defined our value as a people, we are not looking at characters, we are not looking at values, we are not looking at what sense of responsibility the person is bringing onto the office he or she occupies, because it is from the followership that our leadership emerge, whether we like it or not. So we can sit here and blame it on those currently occupying office. What will happen to the next people? Only God.
You just mentioned something. It is from the people, it's from the followership that leadership emerges. But then people would also tell you that when the head is bad, then the whole body gets bad. And we always make this. You always talk about how. I like that you also reference the fact that leaders are born out of society, and the society reflects the leadership reflects the kind of society that we're living. Because I'm looking at this, and while you were talking, it crossed my mind what John F. Kennedy would say, or said at his inaugural speech: ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, right? But we live in a country where it seems like everybody is living off and believing that I cannot survive until I take from Nigeria. And so people get into power, and their people or those who are following them expect them to plunder national wealth for their sake. And so you hear people say, oh, he's from our place, what has he done for us? They expect you to be nepotistic in choosing those who will serve the country, forgetting that these people are supposed to serve the entirety of the nation, not just one region or a particular religion or sect. We have come to a point where we're looking at the elections. People are talking and saying it is time of the Yorubas, it is time for the Igbos, it is time for the Hausa, the Fulanis, it's time for the North Central, it's time for that, and we're just divided against ourselves, talking about where the next leader should come from, rather than who is most competent to serve the generality of the nation. What do you make of this kind of orientation, and how we can begin to reorient Nigerians?
Well, we seems to already have gone too deep in our sense of entitlement as a people, so that at every given opportunity we feel entitled. We don't even want to bring something to the table most of the time. Rather, we expect something either from our people in power, or our political party, or maybe even the government of the day, at all levels. So we don't have the sense of actually contributing to development of our society or our community, so that most of us Nigerians will expect something from the system that most time we do not contribute to build. So, and one of the things, the lessons that you learn, like the American society you talk about, is that people generally are trained to be responsible as citizens. You are expected from a very young age to volunteer. And for those who lived many years back in Nigeria, also told us that it used to be a culture in Nigeria for people to also contribute, maybe through their various grade system, get engaged in communal efforts. Communities even maybe do small roads or bush paths in villages. You know, you have this very traditional, robust traditional society where people were meant to contribute to the development of community instead of the kind of sense of entitlement we have today. So as it stands, there is we seem to have missed the road a long time ago, and we've gone far into our derailment that is a bit difficult for us to start retracing our steps. But having said that, it is not impossible for an aggressive campaign for value reorientation to be birthed in Nigeria at this point, of which, fine, you said that a lot of people look up to leadership in terms of bringing about change. So I'm sure that with the right kind of leadership emerging in Nigeria, it's still possible that we maybe have some kind of value orientation. It doesn't have to be a bogus national campaign like the one we had with Good People, Great Nation, or the one we had with Change Begins With Me. It has to be something that will be bottom up, in my view, where you go back to the grassroots, using the NOA, for instance. Using the NOA, by the way, has offices in all the local governments.
How would you rate the performance of the NOA over time?
Over time, I think political exigencies have also made the NOA rather less effective, because appointments of DGs to NOA is based on political patronage and not, in my view, not based on competence. Fine, I'm not saying those who have held the office are not competent, but it is based on political patronage. And when the person gets there, he or she is likely also be doing some kind of bidding to align with the political party or interest that he or she represents. So over time, you don't give much attention to job or to the job. And that's what happens almost at all levels in Nigeria. We give less attention to governance and more attention to the politics of that office. So the NOA, like you ask, hasn't been really up to scratch, in my view. But give it to them, in some respect, they've also done well. I know that they support the various national social investment programs of the federal government, using their local government offices to mobilize people to take part in maybe schemes like End Power and all of those other ancillary programs that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs gets to do most of the time. So they've done quite some work in that regard. But generally speaking, sometimes we probably had to knock at their doors for them to come out and be involved, especially during elections, where you also see them bringing out jingles, encouraging more people to be mobilized to vote, and then telling them how important it is for them to take their civic obligations seriously. But apart from that, in terms of a consistent, generally more proactive steps as an agency of government charged with the responsibility of value orientation and reawakening our sense of civic obligation, they are not doing so well.
We'll be talking more about civic education, civic responsibility, and civic obligation in a bit, seeing as how we're going all gathering momentum to get to the polls in 2023. It's very important that we begin to think differently. We've seen what the people have referred to as dollar delegate system where, it's only money that decides who becomes the flag bearer and all that. We'll be talking about that. Seeing we're going to the elections and people are always saying, the electorates would probably sell their votes for, for 500, 1,000, 2,000 naira just because they're hungry, and they would rather not make these sacrifices now than make them now. Take this. They'd rather take the money now than make that sacrifice that's required for national development. Stay with us. The conversation continues on your radio experience. You can count on.
That is about to be lit. You just love good music. Someone who loves you like you. I know you do. I don't really care if you're older. On Eagles 102.3 FM.
It's travel time. 3 lucky people stand a chance to win a trip to Kenya in the Techno Nigerian Idol Winner Trip promo. Buy the Techno Camon 18 or Phantom X smartphones and travel on an all-expense-paid trip with the winner of the Nigerian Idol Season 7. Also, get discounts of up to 10,000 naira on select Techno smartphones and gifts upon purchase. Promo runs till 5th of June. Visit at Techno Mobile NG on social media for more info. T's and C's apply. Techno, stop at nothing.
It's Tongue Twister Friday.
What's going on here?
We put a phrase 5 times real fast without mispronouncing any word.
Fantabulous.
She sells seashells by the seashore. Sells seashells by the seashore.
I used to wash my Irish fish, but I used to wash my Irish fish, but I used to wash my Irish fish, but I used to...
You were like my Irish fish wash.
How fast do we hear of this?
Goggles, gobble, gobbling, goblins.
You don't know why it's going on.
Give it a try on the Friday Traffic Rush at 5 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with
The time is 9:30. You're plugged into your radio experience. You can count on. And this morning we're talking effective communication for national reorientation or mass reorientation. My guest this morning is Malam Isa Ismail, who is a communications expert. He is a communications consultant, strategic communications consultant, and media analyst. He's talking with us this morning on how we can begin to change our ways and change the way that we think as Nigerians. Now, you hear, by the way, the phone lines are open. You can join the conversation now. Call me on 090-735-30044 and 090-8766-8888. SMS and WhatsApp are welcome on 090-9705-4450. Don't forget to watch us live on YouTube and on Facebook at Eagles FM Abuja. Mr. Ismail, you hear people say corruption has eaten into the fabrics of Nigeria. Nigerians are corrupt. In fact, a British Prime Minister had the effrontery to say Nigerians are fantastically corrupt. Nigeria is a fantastically corrupt country. Do you think that Nigeria can change from this? We can change our minds and our mindsets and our thinkings from the corruption mindset. Before you respond, I have a caller here. Hello, good morning.
Thanks. Good morning once again.
Good morning, Mayowa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning to our guest.
Good morning.
I want to start by saying that you cannot discuss patriotism without well-being of the people. And you cannot discuss society character without leadership. Where you just mentioned that in the past Nigeria was not like this. That was era we were just pulling out from the colonial control or leadership, because there was agenda, there was plan, there was strategy, which people must have to comply with. But since we pull out, we embrace self-governance in Nigeria. We appear not to have agenda. We appear not to have a plan for the development of the Nigerian society. Then the life of impunity sets in, because those who are in position of leadership neglected accountability, and the people that are following them embrace their character and attitude. There is no way you can actually you can't expect much from the follower when you, the leaders, are not doing the right thing. But I can bet you, if from this moment we have leadership who will set a set agenda, and they are also prepared to comply with all the protocol of such agenda, you will see the attitude of the follower will also change. Basically, what we lack in Nigeria is leadership. When we get the leadership right, the followership will be, in fact, there won't be issue. And people's welfare, if we don't take it as priority, you can never get the support of the people, and crime will never cease in the land. Thank you. God bless
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Mayowa, they are making a case for the well-being of the people and leadership. Says if you don't get leadership rights, there's no way that people can change their mentality and the way that they think. What do you think about that?
It's quite correct. We're in this country in 2015 when the current administration came in, and everybody was excited, almost ecstatic as to the direction that the country was going to go. And I had some people in government at the time. All of a sudden you saw people becoming more conscious of what they were doing, also more cautious of steps they were taking. There was this air of a new sheriff in town.
The famous body language.
Yes, everybody needed to adjust and amend their ways and all of that. But at some point, all of a sudden, they seemed to drop the ball. And once they dropped the ball, it became free for all. And then the same culture that the current ruling party accused the previous government of became prevalent all over the place. And right now we're even hearing of even more humongous theft in government places, and then it doesn't give confidence. I mean, with respect to Mayowa's view, you see that everything rises and falls on leadership. Like the famous caller said, John Maxwell, I think. So if the leaders don't show the right attitude, the right character, there will be really nothing for the followership to emulate or to imitate, because it is what you see your leaders do that tells how they want the country to go. So if they are giving you a direction that you should go as followers, you can't begin to maybe reinvent the wheel and then mending your ways, or maybe going the other way when the country, based on the nature of leadership and the culture of leadership, seems to be going in a different direction. So that's the challenge that we have. So with respect to your questions now on whether Nigeria can change this tide of our debt into corruption
mentality.
Yes. So it's going to be difficult because everybody whose parents worked in some circle and decided to stay off corruption, some of them seem to be licking their wounds now. I have friends who said their parents resisted all temptations to be corrupt while working in the public sector, and then some of their neighbors who embraced corruption, they saw their kids living the big life, going abroad, living champagne life, and then they were living as if, in short, some of them had to question their parents as to where were you when this man was doing this. So that is the kind of life we live. So there's this copycat mentality, and once you give people the idea that this is the way to go, people just follow. And those who seems to reject that lifestyle, that culture of being corrupt, some of them will be seen as less worthy in society.
Well, so what we do now, now where we are we saying that there's no way that the masses can influence a change at leadership level? Because I'm thinking that, for instance, was to go to the elections. We saw during the Anambra elections where people rejected money that was given to them, and they were praised for it. There's something called naming and shaming. Can we not get to the point where people in the society begin to name and shame those who are considered corrupt within their communities? And these communities, back in the day, we had situations where a whole community comes out to say this person is a bad person, and this person does not deserve to be amongst us, and so we're even going to report this person to the police. What we have these days is, he's our own, let's shield him, let's protect him, so the world doesn't embarrass him because he's our own. When do we move from being able to name and shame the evil, evil, rather than protect evil.
But the moment that we began to see or classify people who ordinarily should be condemned as my own thief, you understand, or
honorable,
my own corrupt person, this one is our own and the other one is not our own, that was where we got it wrong, where there was no unanimous condemnation of bad behavior in families, in communities, and then up to the level of maybe local government, states, and even at the national level. So that's where we got it wrong. So everybody that gets to power these days will want to represent their own interests, their kith and kin, their communities in government, their churches, their mosques, whatever they represent, whatever interest they represent. So even when that person goes wrong, his group, his or her group, from the community where they hail from, or from where they worship, or where they schooled, people rally around them. We've seen situations in this country where somebody was accused of forgery, and some old schoolmates come around and say, hey, we knew this guy was an honorable man. We've seen situations where somebody was accused of corruption. At the point where the person was being tried, his kinsmen will come to court and say, hey, this guy is being maltreated because he's from our place. So this is where we got it wrong. And for us to pull away from this state right now is going to take a whole lot of work. You talked about the Anambra case. That's just, for me, a good example that is not really scalable. Yes, because what happened in Anambra, I very much doubt if it will happen in Imo or in Enugu, the next states to Anambra. So it may not happen, let alone happening all over Nigeria. So we commend the people, but it's not scalable enough for us to begin to be hopeful that things can change. But even at that, as Nigerians, we remain hopeful that someday, especially as we move towards the next election, some kind of people are going to rise and say, hey, we really want to change the way we do things. And that begins in us taking the political parties seriously, taking interest in politics. Some people on social media the other day were saying that some people have so much followership on social media, but they have not registered to vote. So how is that going to count when it's election day? Because we have to make the point with your votes. And we've seen some examples too in some communities where people have elected people that are really worthy in character, and some of them have gone to make some difference at the national level. Who says that cannot happen at the presidential level? It can, but it's going to take a whole lot of work, because it starts with the political party. If the parties are conducting election on the basis of maybe how much money you spend to get how much number of votes that you can garner to become the candidate or flag bearer of the party, it just follows that when it comes to the general election, the same thing might just replicate itself, because people are going to vote based on who offer the most money or the more money.
That's quite worrisome. So I'm going to put this to you. If you're listening now, are you ready to commit to say, look, come 2023, I'm not one of those who would be bought off with monies. I'm not one of those who would vote for a candidate because they are from my region when I know that they're not competent enough to change this country. Are you going to make a commitment to say, you know what, corruption, count me out as a Nigerian? Or should we just continue the way that we're going? Join the conversation. Let's hear from you, what your thoughts are. The numbers are 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Do you think that Nigerians can move away from the corruption mentality? Are you one of those who positively believes that it's possible for us to shift from nepotism and corruption in this country, and really looking for meritocracy and people who really merit positions to take them? Joining, let's hear from you. Now, back to the issue of civic education.
Yeah.
There is a large crop of Nigerians, a large population of Nigerians who on election day would not go out to vote. They would rather sit at home and watch television, or play football in the streets. We always talk about that. Play football. That's the day that they know, today the streets are empty. We're going to play football rather than go to vote. How do we begin to change this ideology or mentality?
Well, in terms of mobilizing our people to be more interested in their civic obligation, maybe knowing what kind of government we are running, what challenges we have, and also building their confidence to believe in the political process and taking part in election. It's really unfortunate that we've left much of the work to either the election management body, the INEC, or the political parties, both of whom can't really do all of the work. There's a whole lot that communities ought to be doing. There's a whole lot that maybe towns union, a whole lot that clubs, associations, individuals, families, even people who are well-to-do in communities should be doing. Community organizations or associations ought to be doing. Community-based groups should be doing to educate people, especially at this point in time. Fine, there are a couple of initiatives here and there that people are doing, but sometimes we have not really built the critical mass that we need for the kind of change of attitude towards our civic responsibilities in this country. For instance, in the last election, we had the two major parties. The votes that they garnered in the general election was around 25-26 million in a population of maybe up to, for me, over 100 million eligible voters. Yeah, between 86 million and 100 million eligible voters that we have in Nigeria. Yes, that's even conservative. Yeah. But so you can see that we have a long way to go. And we seems to even be regressing in terms of the number of voters that we've had over the years. There was some year where we had about 32 million votes. I can't remember the actual year now, but even though we know that at that point elections were less credible than they are now, so we may not really bank on what real numbers are. But somehow over the years we seem to even be regressing in terms of the number of voters we're having as for polled by political parties or their candidates. So what we need to do right now is to engage a lot more efforts, mobilize more people to take part in election, and make election not like a ceremony. The political process is a long drawn process, beginning with knowing the time of registering to vote. Right now the CVR is on. A lot of people are not even aware. So maybe media organizations like yours will also need to be more involved in terms of educating people on registering to vote. Those who are going to move from one place to another to begin to transfer their voters card to their new places, and also in terms of the newly delineated polling booths that have been created. A lot of people are not aware that the polling booth where they voted the last time is not where they are going to vote in 2023. So that kind of education and awareness needs to go on. Also, the kind of political parties that we have and their candidates. Political parties also need to do more effort, educate more people as to how to vote, how to register to vote. I'm sure if all political parties in Nigeria mobilize themselves actively and their members, we will have very good numbers. And then the rest of us who are not members of any political party will follow through and then take a cue from the political parties members and then register to participate in the electoral process. But if we leave it to INEC and political parties alone, we are really not going to achieve much.
Very well said. Every hand needs to be on deck as we move forward and move towards the 2023 elections. Joining, play your parole, enlighten people, help those around you who don't know how to go about, the CVR. If they don't have smartphones or computers to do these things, you can help them. I like that a lot of young people are taking it upon themselves to help other young people register and get voted, get their PVCs. Now, join the conversation. I'll bring you in 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Chineye here says, well, sadly, I don't think that Nigerians can move away from corruption and the corruption mindset anytime soon. Nigerians have believed so much in taking and taking and taking. Nobody really wants to give. Well, thank you so much, Chineye, for your message. Keep your calls coming. 09073530044 and 09087668888. What can we do to reorient Nigerians and have their minds thinking differently from corruption, nepotism, hate? Let's talk about that. There seems to be a lot of suspicion and hate in the country. So I'm from this region, and I just believe that the other person from the other region is an enemy, and that has sported or degenerated into killings and destruction of lives and properties. What are your thoughts on that? How can we change that?
Man, it's a very difficult question, and it calls for a lot of sober reflection this time. That we seem to be experiencing a lot of violence all over the country. There's hardly any place that is safe right now in Nigeria, and it's unfortunate that over time we've allowed some sentiments to fester for too long, that it has become very difficult for you to change people's mind as to who your brothers are and who your sisters are. While a lot of our leaders are making efforts to unite the country, build bridges among or between ethnic groups, tribal groups, religious groups in the country, the effort seems to be too little, too late.
Please hold that. Let's
Yes.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, who's joining us, please?
My name is John.
Don, go ahead, let's hear you.
Talking about how to stop corruption in Nigeria, have to do with the people living in Nigeria, as Nigerians, not the government.
Okay.
Yes, because sometimes the people in government, they'll come and give us money, we collect. And how I wish we can be able to reject that money, not by voting, but by rejecting it sincerely and voting our right person. This is how to stop corruption.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. I really appreciate your position and your thoughts. Reject the money, because over time, I think what really made this whole thing degenerate is the idea of, take the money and vote your conscience, or take the money and vote who you want, and that didn't really help us. We got to a point where people just took the money and then people began to make them swear oaths and also show take photos of the ballot to show who they voted for. As we close, what would be your final words to Nigerians on the issues of general and mass national reorientation?
Well, there has to be concerted effort by the government and communities, well-to-do individuals, to expand the civic spaces, apart from investing in mass media, especially community broadcasting, so that we can reach a lot more of our people, particularly using radio, which has become penetrated almost 97 to 99% of the Nigerian land space. So there's a lot that we need to do to educate our people and let them realize that taking part in civic responsibility or doing their civic duties are very, very important. Is the role that they play that determines how much they contribute to the development of the country. Everybody needs to take this very seriously, and I'm sure that when we build that critical mass of people who are taking this very seriously and making contributions to the development of the country, we will have a better place.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ismail. Issa Ismail is a strategic communications consultant and media analyst. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We hope that Nigerians would hear and help themselves change and move away from the corruption, nepotism, hate, anger, and bitterness mindset. We hope that you would go get your PVC, get registered, and get ready to vote in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday, and we say thank God it's Friday. Oli J is here.
Yes, I'm here.
Oli J, good morning.
Good morning.
It's Friday. You know, it's the best day in the world, yeah?
For you,
Yeah, it is. I love Fridays. I mean, I get
the hats and the face cap and your shirts matching.
Thank you. I'm trying to be like you, you know? I'm learning from you, you know?
Okay.
What's happening on the show today?
I mean, it's Friday, so we're excited. For people who work, do you know students work? kids wake up as early as 5.
Look, my neighbor wakes 5-6. My neighbor and his kids wake up at 4:30, and I'm waking up at 4:30 and thinking, why do you have to wake these kids up at 4:30 in the morning? Why?
I saw a research. It says
and they go
kids
to
actually
school.
start learning from 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That's when they're really more distressed. So these days, when I have kids, not kids, but sometimes when they call on the radio and they're like, "Yeah, it's the weekend," I'm like, I can understand.
Yeah, just
because
go rest.
They go through it a lot. Tomorrow we hear the APC thing.
Yes. I just hope I hope people will not get fake dollars this time around. Anyway,
I heard when it's hard to differentiate between the real naira and the
So
fake
imagine politicians
dollars.
coming to you with dollars and you're like, wait, let me check. Is it original?
As
yes, don't take any money.
Are you to take money?
Don't take any money. What's happening on the girlfriend show? You know, I'm always interested in that.
So people talk about when they get married, the love and all of that seems to, I don't know, retrograde. I don't know what happens, but when you get married, why? Because there was a question on social media: why do men not love their wives as much as they do from the start of the marriage? Something
really?
Like that.
I don't know. I think
want to know.
men, it's hard for men to really settle down in marriage because a lot of men.
Yeah.
I think that as you grow older, you begin to when you're no longer chasing money, you're no longer chasing all these things. You begin to. That's when you begin to love. That's when you begin to, because at the other time there's so much distraction. There's so many things taking your mind.
Saying.
So when you get to like 50, and then at that time you're resting.
We understand that those men are loyal men you're talking about. We're talking about men who begins to have side chicks. They begin to, want another.
Maybe they just get bored. Ladies and gentlemen, stay here on your radio experience. You can count on. My name is Ileana Cho Prince. Bye for now.
Eagles 102.3.
Welcome to Eagles 102.3 News Beats. Here is the business news beats. Fuel queues returned to the Federal Capital Territory on Thursday